Sooner Nation, welcome back to the Sooner Surge. Coming at you tonight with a preview of number 9 Oklahoma Sooners versus TCU basketball for tomorrow night as we record this. And first road test for Oklahoma in the Big 12. And if you guys have watched anything of the Big 12 in any games, winning on the road is very difficult. And it's going to be difficult tomorrow night for the Sooners, even though OU's ranked 9. Yes, I get it. But any win you can get on the road in the Big 12, take that and get out of town. So we'll see what happens tomorrow night. I think it's a pretty evenly matchup with these two teams. I think it's going to come down to two things, Hunter. Turnovers for Oklahoma and shooting. I know that's probably simple basketball, but OU's going to defend pretty well. I think that's one thing you can bank on this team doing for the most part is defending. It's whether or not they can execute on offense and not turn the ball over.
Yeah, 100%. But you also look at TCU. This is the highest ranked scoring offense they have faced all year. They're number 12 in the country in scoring offense. They just barely lost to Kansas in Phog Allen Fieldhouse. Would have won it if it wasn't for the Phog Allen effect when you play at Kansas. It's just down the stretch, you can't get a call to go your way. They lose by 2 there, and Kansas is a top 3 team in the country. So this is a really good team, although they're not ranked. But at the same time, this is a game that OU is going to have to win a few road games. You have to. If you want to be to that 4 or higher seed in the tournament, which I think they are capable of being. I mean, this team's 13-1 right now. Got that big-time win at home against Iowa State, especially the adversity shown. They were down by 1 point with 3:58 left to close it out on like a 14-2 run at 1 point. Like, that's a big-time statement from Porter Moser and the Sooners. Javion McCollum dishing it out with Trey Darthard finally figuring it out from 3. Second half played really well defensively as well. So I think this is a game you really need to win. Again, if they lose it, it's not a end of the world type of loss for a road game. It's a road game in the Big 12. I mean, we're talking about Houston's the number 2 team in the country, and as we're recording this, last time I checked, they were down by 10 in Ames, Iowa. So Big 12, crazy things can happen. This is last year it was 10 teams, and it was a very, very good conference. And now you have 14 teams, and there's really only 2 teams that are bad, and that's West Virginia and Oklahoma State. But those 2 teams can still, I think, beat you on any given night with just the way that the Big 12 goes. I mean, all these teams they added in, Houston, BYU, Cincinnati, UCF, they're all really good. TCU is a team that's had a lot of success over the years, and I know this is a completely different team than last year for Oklahoma, but let's remember last time they went to TCU, they lost by 27, embarrassed on national television. So for the few guys that are still around from that team, I'm sure that's something that they're looking forward to for this game.
Well, and there are no nights off in the Big 12. I mean, even at OSU, when you play OSU or West Virginia, there's no nights off. And one thing that TCU does not have this year is Lampkin. Lampkin, he kind of destroyed OU a little bit last year. But they do have Jameer Nelson Jr., really good player at guard. I mean, extremely good. And so he'll be a tough matchup. But when I look at OU, one thing that's different from this team than any Porter Moser coach team that OU's had is even the other night, Hunter, I mean, I wouldn't say McCollum was on at all. I mean, he scored 15 points, but he wasn't shooting the ball well. But the difference with this team, 3 for 10. The difference with this team is if 1 or 2 guys aren't scoring, like Owe, he didn't score much the other night. They had other guys that can step up. I mean, you had Uzan played pretty good the other night. Godwin had double digits. Godwin went 10. And then you had Darthard that scored for the Sooners that night. So that's where I think I'm a little more, as a fan, I'm a little more optimistic on road games and such, because you're in a hostile environment, yes, but if 1 or 2 guys aren't hitting, you do have other scores, which what they've been missing. And I'll say this, it's not just the fact that they're playing TCU tomorrow night that's so big, but look what's behind it at Kansas. And the chances of going 0-2 this week, I'd say it's a possibility. hopefully not. Hopefully they can steal the TCU game, and then you're 2-0 going to Big 12, going to Kansas, and that game's just a icing on the cake, whatever you do there. But it's very easy in the Big 12 to get on a long losing streak. That's the thing about it, and that's the scary thing is you got to be on, because just like that, you can play 3 or 4 games and go 0-4. I mean, it's that tough in the Big 12.
Yeah, 100%. 0-2 is the one thing you don't want to do in the Big 12 for the week, which it can happen any given week. I mean, like you mentioned, 2 road games this week at TCU where they have struggled historically speaking, and then at Kansas where, I mean, it's Phog Allen. They haven't won there in how many years, Jay? I know for sure I haven't been alive when they last won there. So, again, you got to find a way to go 1-1 on the week at the bare minimum. 2-0, that would be quite the exit from the Big 12 to get a win at TCU and then also at Phog Allen. Anyhow, you mentioned Javion McCollum. Struggled, but still put up 15 points. 3 for 10. He took a lot of bad shots. That plain and simple from 3. There was, and that's credit to Iowa State's defense. They were, for a good chunk of the game, they were really shutting down the Sooners' offense that we're used to seeing, and nothing was going. I mean, the shot clock's running down, and just at some point you got to throw up something and hope it goes in, and it didn't. But Sam Godwin just continues to be impressive. Like he does everything you need him to do. Best rebounder on the team, and I mean, let's not forget this guy was a walk-on, now on scholarship. Just very efficient from the field as well. And then Otega Oweh, that was a bad game from him. He had no field goals. Still scored 8 points from the line. Missed a few free throws as well. Milos Uzan is really just looking like the guy that's gonna, when everyone is having an off night, he's kind of that guy that's just so consistent and picks them up every night. And that was a big time game for Milos Uzan. And I would expect another one if the Sooners are going to get a win on the road.
Well, TCU. Yeah, and Uzan, what I love about his game, and I think it's hard to realize he's only a sophomore. I mean, it seems like he's played a lot of basketball at OU because he's played so much.
Yeah.
He's only a sophomore. What I love about his game, and I know they're different style players, but McCollum, Uzan, if they're struggling getting to the rack, he will force it to get down low. I mean, he will force himself to get down there. And McCollum the other night had some good looks from 3, but if it's not going, I would love to see him drive more, because I think you can either, you're going to get double team and have somebody open, or get to the line. He's a good free throw shooter. And so, but I know different size wise, they're a little bit different. Uzan's a little bit bigger. So maybe that's why Uzan will force that a little bit more. But I would love to see Javion do that a little bit more in games, especially when the 3 ball's not going. But Hunter, who do you think leads the team tomorrow? Who's the MVP of Oklahoma for tomorrow night?
I feel like you got to go with Javion McCollum. He's the best player on the team. Again, you mentioned him needing to drive in. I think we're going to start seeing that as the Big 12 play you get further and further into Big 12 play. Los Uzan had an entire year. You mentioned it seems like he started every single game since he's been at OU. Played so much basketball. He's familiar with the Big 12. McCollum, that was his first game last Saturday at the LNC in the Big 12. So give him some time. I think just McCollum has been so reliable for the Sooners, and even on an off night, 3 from 10 for 3, he scores 15 points, and I mean had a big time assist down the stretch, dishing it out. So I think McCollum's going to lead the Sooners in scoring.
Do the Sooners win?
I think they get the win. TCU is a really good team, but again, I think OU is every bit of that top 10 team that they are. They're number 9 in the country right now. This is a game, even though the Big 12 is super tough, you really need to win this type of a road game early on, because this is what the struggles with the Big 12 is just once you're getting to the middle point of the season, it's like, there's truly no nights off. It's so easy to get into that, like you mentioned earlier, that long losing streak. You need to start it off with early road wins, so that when that losing streak that's most likely to come at some point, it's not as bad, and it keeps you in a top 4 seed or whatever it may be for the Sooners as they get to March Madness.
Yeah, and I look for Oweh to have a bounce back game tomorrow night, really do. And One thing I'll mention that I think probably, I mean, we've mentioned some guys that have really helped this team in the scoring that's different than last year. But to me, the main difference in this year's team, the bench. You got Suarez, Darthard, Hughley. I mean, they've been fairly consistent, and that's really helped them off the bench. Whereas they haven't had that, and that's a big time deal. So I think that continues. And I think tomorrow night, I think the loss to North Carolina on the road in that environment, I think that's going to help them. We always say, well, it's okay if you lose and you're undefeated if it helps you. I think that game's going to help you in a situation like this. They're not going in here undefeated. They're going with that loss that they can look back upon because they did not play well in that hostile environment in Charlotte at all. So this is going to be I know students probably aren't back, but it's going to be hostile down in there in TCU.
Oh, it'll be hostile.
It'll be hostile. So, and it's 8:00 tip, which is even more hostile than the 6:00. So it'll be a great test for the Sooners, and hopefully they can pull it out as a number 9 ranked team and then go into Kansas on Saturday, 2-0 in the Big 12. Let's hope it happens. There's your preview for tomorrow night.
Just one thing. I can't believe we went 10 minutes without mentioning Rivaldo Suarez.
I know.
He was arguably the player.
He might possibly be
for the Sooners
in that last game, Iowa State. I mean,
only 5 points, but he had 9 boards and just the defensive plays that he makes.
He's the Energizer Bunny.
He's that spark off the bench that we have needed, and for a team that's really only running that 8-man rotation, he's that spark plug you need to be able to win those big time games. And I think that's going to continue to happen for the Sooners as the Big 12 play continues.
Yeah, and also Porter Moser, the way I will say this, the way he's used the bench, I think his substitution patterns have been outstanding. Godwin, you can tell when Godwin's gassed, and Hughley gets in there and gives them the minutes they need. I mean, it's very good the way they're using it. I mean, they're almost starters anyway. Those 3, they have been starters, so they can just. So it's been big reason for the success.
Yeah, for an 8-man rotation, he's doing it the right way. 8-man's kind of that tough one, I think, on kind of the timeliness of it. But so far through 14 games, I mean, you can't really argue with any sort of substitution he's made because, like you mentioned, getting Godwin out, getting Hughley in, vice versa, Suarez to provide the spark, Darthard to get some rest for those other guards. Moser's done very well with this rotation so far.
Yeah, and there you have it. Game preview, OU versus TCU, Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Make sure and catch it on TV. It's going to be a great game. Pull this out for the Sooners. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Be a part of what's going on here at the Sooner Surge. Till next time, guys. Boomer.